Hello, this is Esotic, and this is the OpenTZT tutorial on effectors. We're going to be talking about effects, how you use them, how you set them up, what kinds of different effects are available for you to use. So right now what we're looking at is some zip files. I downloaded these zip files. The Esotic FX pack zips will be linked in underneath the video on Vimeo, so you can download those from there. Pete's plugins, FreeFrame 1.14, those effects you'll have to get from petewarden.com, I think is the URL on that, and I'll make sure that I put that in the Vimeo information as well, the text. So you got these right now. What are you going to do with them? So you got to put them somewhere. I'm just for the purpose of demonstration, I'm going to open up my effects pack 1. OpenTZT tends to like about 17 effects in a folder at once, and we're going to put these. So right here you can see all those files in my zip. We're going to have to find some place for these to go. I've already done this, but I'm going to do it again on the video just to demonstrate. So we're going to go into the release directory, and we're going to go into effector and bank 0, and I'm going to start with F4. Actually, let's double check that. OpenTZT has internal effects that will take up a certain number of slots, and so we have to find where the open slots start. So here we're running the program. We are going to, okay, so there's effects. Oh, look, there's my effects in F5. There's one of them right there in F4, so I made a mistake. I'm going to move the F4 effects into the F7 directory, and I've got some mappings happening here in F8. I want to get rid of those. So let's go take a look. So these are the folders inside my bank 0. There's lots and lots of banks. You can have up to 8 effects. You don't normally have that many effects, but you know, if you go out and you buy the FreeFrame pack, somebody out there has got like 180 or something, I don't know. You could end up needing lots and lots of slots, and you can have them by setting up your maximum effects banks here, and then creating those folders. You'd have to have a bank 3, bank 4, bank 5. The naming convention has to be maintained in order for this to work, in order for OpenTZT to pick them up. And then you go and make your F folders, F1, F2, F3, F4, and put your files in there. So OpenTZT has effects in the F1, F2, F3, F4. So if I put my effects in those folders, it's not going to pick them up because they're going to be overridden by the internal effects. So I'm putting my effects in the F5 and the F6, and I've got one in F7 because that effect pack only has one effector in it. So then I'm going to also take some of Pete's plugins. They're right here. This is a zip file I opened up, and I'm going to drop a couple in there. Chromium is pretty cool. Where's that one? Wait a minute. So I like the burn, and I like chromium. I'm just going to grab a couple for demonstration. I'm not going to grab them all. The kaleidoscope's really nice. It runs really fast too. You want to see how to make an effect work quickly, go take a look at some of Pete's code. He does a great job. And we'll leave it there. Okay, so we got a couple of those effects in there. We could put 17 DLLs effects in a folder, and that's about how many OpenTZT is going to recognize, and then you would need to put whatever you have left over in a different folder. And that's just the way it is. So we got some we've got our DLLs in the proper folders, so when we do run TZT, it's going to pick them up. There's a couple things you can set up. There's an Esotic masks directory, and I think that comes out of my effects pack 2. There's a couple of the effectors that use bitmaps to mask the video, and I just decided that this is where they were going to live. So that's where Esotic masks lives. FreeFrame effectors do not have icons, so if you would like icons for your specific effects, you can put them in the sysdata directory, and you'll see here chromium.bmp. I'm not sure exactly who made these. Maybe it was Morph or someone. But yeah, you can make the name of the DLL.bmp, and it will load this as the icon when you run TZT. Okay, so now that we got that, let's go ahead and launch TZT. Let me get that centered on the screen. Check my window. Okay. So here we have some videos and some effects, and here's my little preview window. The preview window is always 320 by 240. It just is. Your output window will be whatever the output is for the resolution that you picked when you ran the program. So I'm going to load in a clip, and here I got a goat chewing. I think that's funny, and I'm going to apply an effect to the goat's mouth while it's chewing. There's a whole bunch of them. Okay, so these are the internal effects that come with OpenTZT. We've got our QWERTY area over here, and then we've got our number pad area over here. Your number pad effectors are I did it now, didn't I? I loaded something. So your number pad effectors are just a quick toggle, and your QWERTY effectors have to be loaded with your control keys. The right control puts the effect in the right effector slot, and the left control, I'm saying it backwards, but you guys know what I'm talking about. So that's how we load an effector into a slot. Let me turn that off. So now we just have a kaleidoscope, and it's running on this image. I'm going to stop the video so the video is not playing. All that motion that's happening right there is just the effector. So we can control the effector with faders. That's what they're called in the software. That's what I call them. You have 2 faders per effector, and you control the faders using the control key or control shift, and you would hold down the control and the control shift for the effector you want to control, because there's 2 of them per player. This is your player, and there's 2 effectors. And so the kaleidoscope is under the right effector, and so I'm going to control the first parameter of the effector, which is speed, and 6 is no speed, 5 is negative speed, and 7 is positive speed. So there's speed that way, and there's speed the other way, and then that's just this effector. That's how it's set up, and that's kind of one of the standards that you'll see the OpenTZT effectors have. And then the control shift for the kaleidoscope is going to control the number of spokes, if you want to call it that. There's 4. I'm going to go ahead and pause the motion so you can see this. And then that's, well, that's not a good clip for that. Let me see. W, maybe that's not good either. That's not so bad. So, going back to, this is 4 spokes, probably 6 spokes, 8 spokes. You're getting more divisions. And the higher you get, the slower it is to respond. It's just the math. That's how it's written. So, not very many spokes, a lot of spokes. Not very many spokes, a lot of spokes. And that's how you control the effectors with the parameters. Every effector's parameters are a little bit different just based on what the effect is doing. Say we use this one, which is the roto zoom. The effectors for the roto zoom control sort of like the bouncing and the spinning. So there is no bouncing and no spinning. And here is a little bit of spinning with no bouncing. And here is a little bit of bouncing and some spinning. And so each effector, I mean, the best thing to do is just sort of load the effector and play with it and see what it does. That's kind of the best way just to get a feel for what these different effectors will allow you to do. And also, you know, you've got your frame rate up here. If you start loading in too many effectors, your frame rate will drop. And having some experience with the effectors ahead of time, you kind of get an idea of how processor intensive they are. Because VJing is sort of this balance between what you can do and what the computer's going to let you get away with before you start dropping frames. Okay, so those are the internal effectors. Now, let's hop on over to, this is good, we'll take a look. These are my effectors that I wrote. And there's some fun stuff in here. Like, I like that one. This one just breaks the screen up into sections and then draws these little lines everywhere. And you can break it up into different sections with the faders. And that clip's not moving, so it doesn't look very exciting. But let's say we load in that clip. That's kind of cool. Or we load in that clip. Or that clip. Or that clip. There we go. Now we got some good times happening. That's fun. And there's obviously a bunch of effects in here, and you can play with those and see what they do. And if you just kind of mess with the faders, you might get an idea of what they're doing. My use of faders is pretty unconventional, and it's going to be confusing to try to figure out what the faders are doing for every effector, and that's why I'm going to end up making a completely separate tutorial that just covers all of my effectors and what their faders do, and hopefully that will help it make sense. But it's a much larger issue. I'm not going to cover it here. And the same thing could sort of be said for Pete's faders for the FreeFrame effectors, because the way FreeFrame effectors are set up are quite a bit different than the way the internal effects work and the way my effects work. But my effects are sort of in between the TZT internal effect methodology and the FreeFrame methodology. So let's go ahead and talk about the FreeFrame faders. So here we are where we put our FreeFrame effectors in the F7 folder of Bank 0. We got a couple of Pete's up here. We got Burn, we got Chrome, and we got the Kaleidoscope. I think the Kaleidoscope is a really good example of how he's done it, or how Pete is managing his effects, his FreeFrame effector parameters. Let me say that correctly. So FreeFrame, in the interface, the architecture allows you to have 13 faders per effector. So in TZT only really knows 2 faders. And it only really knows 13 discrete values for each fader. So there's a little bit of a difference there between what OpenTZT is going to let you control and what the FreeFrame architecture allows for. So in FreeFrame, I mean in OpenTZT, if you're loading a FreeFrame effector, the first thing you're going to do is pick which parameter of the effector you want to control. And there's some little numbers down here, and you'll sort of see them flipping. And so I'm holding down Control and Shift for the left effector of the middle player, and I'm pushing the number keys, and you can see that bottom number. Well, I don't know if you see in the video or not, but that bottom number is going from 0, and then I'm moving up, and it's going to 5, 6, 7, 8. So that's the effector. That's the parameter I'm going to control. I'm not actually setting its value, I'm just selecting which parameter I want to adjust. Now I take my finger off the Shift key, and now I'm actually adjusting that parameter. And Pete's kaleidoscope has a wonderful myriad of options that you can get in and play with. It's a lot of fun. I highly suggest you use it. I use it all the time. So that's how you control the FreeFrame effectors. That pretty much covers what I wanted to cover in this tutorial, but I kind of missed something, so let me go back and talk about the INI files. We looked at it briefly. I didn't fully explain what they do. So we have our effector directory and our banks and our F1, and we have a key map INI. I'm going to open this thing up, and we're going to look at it, and mapping is turned on for this key map INI. You can turn this off. You can turn the mapping off, mapping 1 or mapping 0, and OpenTZT will then decide where all the effectors go into their respective slots. If you turn it on, you can have forcible control over which effects load into which slots, and you can, and under which keys. So like this is monotone goes under W, scan line goes under E, divide goes under R, and the internal effectors all have their names, and you can track them down by looking in these INI files. I would tend to suggest that you probably don't want to play with this very much. You kind of want to get your effects in there the first time, and then just let them be. Because if you start moving effectors around, it's going to throw off your presets. Because your presets are grabbing your files and your effects not based on their name, but rather their location in the banks and folders. So I have my presets down here, and if I load this, you see it's loading some clips or some whatever's, some media files, and then it's loading effectors, and those media files are loaded off of their location in the banks and folders, not off their file name. So if you start messing with INI files and moving things around, your presets are going to go all wiggy, and they're not going to work the way you want them to. And so it's better just to let your presets be, because you spend a lot of time making them, and they're probably really cool, and you want to keep them that way. So anyway, that is our tutorial on effectors. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for listening, and I will see you next time.